Greetings and salutations, fellow YouTubians. We are the Thralls of Metal. I am talking funny because, well, I'm a fucking weirdo. But of course, I am Shredlord.
Necrotic Nick.
And we are bringing you yet another excellent album review. This time, we are going to see if Andrew WK still remembers how to party hard.
Well, I don't know if he does, but he knows that God is partying. This also comes out on the 10th of September on Napalm Records. As far as Andrew WK forming, I guess that's 1979 because that's when he was born, because this is a single person doing all this. But in terms of music, I guess he's been doing this stuff for 21 years now. Like, technically his first release is in 2000. This is his 6th full-length overall, and for those that don't know, he's the big dude that works out a lot, wears stained white shirts and stained white pants and white sneakers too. He likes white colored stuff. I guess it's because he doesn't like wearing all black because everyone wears all black. He's like, no, I want to stand out. But he's the party guy.
He's the guy who taught my generation that when it's time to party, we will always party hard.
And that became a huge anthem in 2002. A big album, I Get Wet. And
which is totally not a drug reference.
No, or anything else really. I mean, it's just a guy bleeding on the cover. It's what could that mean? It's nothing. Now, he's been kind of like, I guess, MIA for a little bit here. He did put out an album a couple of years ago. And this one is his first one on Napalm Records. And honestly, when I heard the lead-off singles, this already screamed that this was going to be a different album. If you're thinking this is going to sound like I Get Wet, you are in for a bit of a surprise. This is different, a little musically eclectic, but let's get into the first 3 singles because they kind of show up a little bit early on the album. Everybody Sins, Babylon, and I'm in Heaven. These are the first 3 singles that are let off, and honestly, they're just kind of flat-out rockers. You know, riff-driven, lots of synths, but they're kind of cool 80s synths, so I'm not really bothered by them. And they're just kind of like mid-tempo, chuggy, riff-oriented songs.
Filled with the quirkiness, though.
Oh, yeah.
You come to know from Andrew WK. He has a certain quirkiness to his songwriting. So
and his videos.
I feel like we have to say that while you're talking about, you're talking about riffs and heaviness and stuff, and then I'm thinking you're giving an impression that there's still, throughout the riffs, Andrew WK's signature quirkiness that always finds its way.
He loves, like, power pop. Like, making heavy songs that rely a lot on major chords and kind of sound upbeat and such. And I mean, his ethos is pretty much right out in front. It's all about the party. Except, honestly, on this one, he doesn't really bring it up very much. But of course, we know it's there because it's Andrew WK. And I think these songs kind of benefited from the very strange videos that he put out for them, which I don't even know how to describe them. You just got to watch them and watch them sober, because if you're on anything, I don't know what'll happen. But these songs were, I think, let off deliberately, because when you get to the rest of the album, it's very, very, very different.
And by different, he means night and day, damn near. To me, this album turned into like a weird rock opera, and I was not ready for it.
By the time you get down to No One to Know and Stay True to Your Heart, you're almost feeling like you're listening to an album by Asia or Berlin, Depeche Mode, 80s Yes. Very synth-driven. In fact, I compared No One to Know to The Never-Ending Story. I mean, it kind of has that feel. They still have the guitar sections on it, and then generally they save that for the big choruses. But a lot of it becomes more synth-driven, and you get the big 80s sort of splashy drums, the sort of washed-out sound. And then Stay True to Your Heart is a ballad to partying. He's singing partying, a love song about how much he loves it. And I mean, judging by the album cover, I mean, he loved it a little bit too much. He pissed his pants.
And I think there's blood by the sewer.
There's definitely
which may
blood.
or may not be his.
It might have been a crime.
Now, going back to the track No One to Know, one thing that immediately made its presence felt to me is I feel like he was listening to a lot of David Bowie in the way he tried to make his voice sound, in the way he delivered his lyrics, and even in the progressions and the what am I looking for? The instrumentation,
Yeah.
That he chose for the song.
I couldn't agree more, and I honestly did not think of that until he brought it up. The intonation on his voice, and I gotta say, Andrew has become a much better singer over the years. Like, he's really got some pipes, and he shows off some pretty incredible range in here. But when he gets down to that more clean but still kind of gruff singing, he sounds like David Bowie. At his heaviest, he's trying to sound more like Ronnie James Dio, but the Bowie-ness is very, very spot on, especially in No One to Know. And actually, We Blew Apart, another one that has the big Bowie feels all over it. But this is where we kind of ran into a problem. Most of this is kind of close to just being ballads. In fact, in the whole second half, which, got us partying as sort of an interlude to sort of segue into the next half.
DMT Naked Walking.
Yeah, it's just symphonic and it's interesting atmosphere. But after that, you get I'm in Heaven, which is probably the heaviest track on here. Very breakdown driven, big anthemic, vocals, except they're more gruff. He even throws in a couple of screams. But after that, we are back to ballad territory, and it gets very soft and emotive and kind of all about the feelings other than partying. Like, this is the guy that wrote Party Till You Puke. And, I mean, parties change when you're in your 20s and then in your 40s. You go to bed earlier, like, oh, I can't stay up too late. I got to take the kids to soccer practice. And, well, hangovers suck now, too.
You're in your 40s and you stay up really late.
I do, but I don't drink a lot.
That is true.
That is true. And unfortunately, again, I kind of was waiting for the party to pick back up, but it kind of winds down really, really early. My Tower, I think, tries to pick it back up, but it's a little long-winded, and it starts off very much like all the ballads do, with more pianos and synths before it really gets rocking. And by the time it gets rocking, you're like, I feel like I waited a little too long for the party to pick up. Like, this is the point where, the one guy that's been drinking, I could stay up and super late. And he's trying to shake people awake. Come on, have another shot. Like, oh, will you fuck off? It kind of comes off like that. And then, you get one more ballad after that. And that was kind of the issue here. I feel like this was kind of misleading in terms of the singles they released. And I really liked the singles they released. I thought, like, hey, this is not exactly what he did before, but it's still energetic, it's still fun. And then I hear the rest of it, and while I do like some of the songs that are on the softer side, like, I think Stay True to Your Heart is an 80s pop ballad that didn't get written in the 80s. I mean, it kind of sounds like that. Like, I love, Peter Gabriel and, like, Thompson Twins and stuff like that. But I didn't sign up for that being 75% of the album.
No. And even when it did have that hard rock, heavy metal vibe with the riffs, the guitars were still really low in the mix. And I think that was a big miss on his part, because I think it could have added to the epicness and to the overall vibe. If we got a little bit more heft with those guitars, at least give them a little more love. The keyboards were given a lot of love in this mix.
Yeah.
A lot of love. And I feel like the guitars were a little secondary, and for a hard rock heavy metal band, that's just not that acceptable to me.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is, I guess, technically metal, more hard rock. I mean, even by today's standards of metal,
I can't call it metal.
Can't really call it metal. There's not really enough on here that is flat out metal, but I think what he did is good. And I mean, I'm glad he didn't just try to repeat the whole Party album again, because he's already done that. And he's definitely showing he's got, more writing skill in other areas. It's just, again, energy was kind of waning on this. And then you got a couple of bonus tracks on here, Made It and Not Anymore, which kind of feel like a second stab at the, I Get Wet material, except, it kind of comes across as like lackluster. It's missing the energy. I don't believe he wants to party hard. No. I don't believe he wants to party at all.
Gave it up.
I think he wants to go to bed by 9 p.m. Now, this all sounds good, though. Like, in terms of production, which I believe he did most of the production along with another guy whose name I forgot to write down, but they did a good job. It's, really well done, polished. They get a lot of that, token 80s sound, especially in the synths and the more, like, arena rock moments, especially in Everybody Sins. But yeah, I mean, it sounds good, except for maybe the lead tones were
They were very fuzzy, and not that that was necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. It was, maybe they could have chose something different, but it was what it was. Now, what he did play, though, was nice and simple and melodic and powerful. So he had great note choices, and the solos were nice complements to the song. It wasn't just, okay, I'm going to put a lead here and play the 5 licks that I learned from YouTube over this section. Like, it had a melody, and it had a beginning and a middle and an end. So he did a really good job of constructing those good melody lines. Would I have chosen that tone? Probably not, but that's more of a personal preference thing. The playing was good, the execution was good, and the melodies were good. Yeah. So I will give it that.
And when it comes down to like the emotion on here, I have no doubt that he believes, you know, everything he's saying about this all kind of feels like it's from the heart.
You can tell this is a labor of love album. Whether you connect with it or not, you could tell he put a lot into this.
Yeah, it's very emotive, and like I said, not exactly what I signed up for, but there was a lot of stuff in here that I did end up liking. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. Not the party that I thought I was going to. It just kind of ended up being more of a weird introspective party with a lot of 80s pop music. But I like 80s pop. I definitely could have used some more riffy, just fun, chuggy songs. And throw in all that 80s pop stuff in with that, like, you know, kind of do what you did on like the other heavier songs on here, because there's still that sort of feel to them. But when you start doing back to back to back to back ballads, I was like, man, I feel like, you know, you push too hard at one demographic there. And yeah, don't go into this expecting I Get Wet. It's not that album, but I will say that if you do like 80s pop and, you know, the occasionally nice kind of heavy riffy banger, check this album out. Andrew WK is awesome. I mean, honestly, the dude's just a cool dude, and I mean, I end up probably liking him as a person more than most of his music, but when he does write a cool song, I generally really appreciate it, and there's some cool songs in here, so definitely check it out.
To me, this album is, I walk into a party, some close friends are there, but instead of partying, they want to talk about their feelings and shit and drink disgusting liquor and beer that I don't like.
You want some Jaeger? No,
I don't. I drank enough of that as a teenager, thanks to all the Slayer posters. But I digress. This album wasn't bad. I think there is a lot of people that will get into it. I am not one of them. This album was not for me. There were plenty of things to like about this from a production standpoint, from a songwriting standpoint, from a passion standpoint. But I think, boys and girls, you know, sometimes things just click and sometimes they don't. And this was not for me. This was a very weird, meatloafy rock opera, and I left before intermission. So I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 5. Definitely not a bad album, but not something I would ever go to reach for again.
So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there will be a link below in the description. Also, a link below for our giveaway going on once we hit 7,500 subs, which we're getting pretty close. It's pretty incredible.
Can you feel it, baby?
He feels it.
I feel it.
He definitely feels it. We'll be giving away a nice little stack of 8 CDs with the new Cannibal Corpse in there with the uncensored artwork.
Hottie.
For your eyes to behold and your parents to go, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with you? All you have to do is comment on the video below and you are entered. And we still have some shirts available. We have mostly extra larges, some double X's, and maybe a small in there. Either way, if you would like one and you know someone that size or you are that size, hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message there, put shirts in the title, and we will get back to you, get your information, and hopefully sell you a shirt. So with that, thank you all for watching, and we will catch you later.